Alright, well, we're waiting for some parts to come in and do some more other things. I've got some radiator flush. I've got my bucket. As you can see, there's just water in there. So we're going to drain a little bit of this out so we can put our coolant flush in. We're going to run the motor for a little bit, and then once it starts to cool off, we'll work on some other things. The blower motor for the heater box is supposed to be in on Monday, but I do have the heater core, so I could start pulling that apart. It's disconnected, as you can see, because there's no hose. It just loops back right here. And I got the motor mounts for the Jeep. The driver's side is blown out. I could do that once the engine's cooled off a little bit, because I will need to remove the alternator to get the bolt on this side out on the passenger side. So, and it looks like, just looking at that belt, I probably should go ahead and replace it. So first thing I'm going to do is get down on the ground here and loosen up the petcock valve, let some of this fluid out so I can put this flush in there. Alright, so the valve on my side, on my Jeep, is on the passenger side, just right there. You can kind of see it. See if I can get my hand on it right there. So I am going to use both hands. It is plastic, but like I said, I am going to be replacing this radiator anyway with an aluminum one, 3-core. So it's not really too bad of what I need to do, but I do need to get my bucket under there, and I'm not trying to lose all the fluid. I can always top off, but I'm just going to flush it for now. So let me get that cracked open so I can get this started. Alright, I don't think my bottom of my radiator is very clear. I have the screw almost completely backed out, and it's not leaking out of the hole, it's leaking out from around the screw. So that kind of tells me that this is plugged. So they probably had stop leak or some shit in there, and they let it pool at the bottom. So this might take a little while to get the fluid down low enough to get that quart of stuff in there. Because look, yeah, see, it's just running down my finger. Alright, so I've pretty much backed it all the way out, and it's still not. You can see what a mess it made. So I put it back in a few turns just so that it would go in the bucket instead of on the ground. But it might be something you'll have to deal with. Alright, it's just slow going at this point. Alright, so I put the radiator flush in. I topped it off with some water. We're going to leave the cap off. We're going to run it, make sure that it doesn't drop down once it burps itself from me letting all that coolant out, or water out. We'll top it off, and then I'll go ahead and put the cap back on, and then we'll run it for 15 to 30 minutes. And then we'll let it cool down and sit while I do some other work. Alright, so just started it up. Coolant level hasn't dropped any, so we'll let it just go ahead and warm up. And then once it's completely warmed up, we'll go ahead and put the cap on it. Alright, so it's been burping a little bit. I put some more water in it. I also went and got my long blower. So while we're waiting for this to happen, completely get warmed up, we're going to go ahead and blow some of that dust out from under the dash area. Alright, so it's warm enough. I put the cap back on, so now we're just going to let it run for about 15 minutes or 20, and we'll just go ahead and go from there. You know, I hear this little rattle And I'm wondering if that's the chain tensioner. I hear that they are prone to go bad. This motor has 200,000 miles on it or so. So I might be looking into replacing it. But so far so good. We'll just let it run for a while. Alright, so I sprayed this off a little bit. You can see it cleaned up. It's still pretty grungy. I still need to get in there, spray some cleaner on it. I've been blowing around underneath here under the dash. Trying to get it as clean as I can without applying any chemicals at this point. But it does look like I'm still going to have to put some electric cleaner in there to get everything cleaned out. I got the doors open so I can not dust myself out. So let me try blowing some more of that out of there. Alright, well, I made a huge dust. I don't know, it's hard to pick up all the dust in the phone, but I got quite a bit of that blown out. A bunch of cobwebs and stuff. At least one nice thing, whoever put the stereo in actually used a pigtail that was Jeep to a universal harness, so at least I have that. I don't have to worry about these wires being cut. That's nice. I'm still trying to figure out what that plug is right there. I haven't found any books. I would have thought it goes to the heater control thing, but where it's taped off, maybe it's not. Like I said, I can't figure out where it goes. I don't see another unplugged that looks anything like that. Maybe it's just part of the Jeep that doesn't get plugged in on this particular model. I'm not sure. But yeah, I've got a lot of this weird wiring. I'm gonna go ahead and unhook all of their wiring and start from scratch. Rewire all the lights. Do that here pretty quick. Regretfully, I don't have the gauges hooked up because I got everything apart. But we're not supposed to have rain for the next 4 or 5 days, so I should be able to get a few things done. So now that I got it under the dash blown out, most of those cobwebs out of there and most of the dirt, I'll go ahead and pick up all these trim pieces and put them in the back seat, and then go ahead and take the seat out of here and start working on getting that box out. But got about another 10 minutes on letting the motor circulate with the cleaner in it, and then we'll shut it down and let it rest. On the bottle it says drive it for about 6 to 10 miles or something like that. I don't have plates on the car right now, so because I'm waiting to get it smogged, because that's one of the parts I'm waiting for is a stock airbox. So we're just going to idle it. I'll probably do that a couple of times. And in between then I'll work on some other things. So back in a bit. Well, I've been sitting here waiting. I noticed how greasy everything was up here on top, so I got my foamy engine degreaser out and I started spraying everything down. Might be hard to tell because there's a lot of grip and stuff up in there. So we're just spraying everything. I'll come back later, hose it all off. But yeah, I cleaned up the valve cover pretty good. A lot cleaner than it was. You can still see the blackness around the back. Sprayed down this side. I don't know if it needs a gasket or maybe just a new cap seal, but we'll see. I'll spray that down again here real good in a second. Alright, so I sprayed this down real good. It's still steaming a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and go get my hose so I can rinse everything off, and we'll just let this cool down. When I come back, I'll shut it off, let it cool down, and then the next phase will be to work on the motor mounts, but I'll do the motor mounts once the engine's cool. Alright, so I hosed everything off real good. Valve cover looks nice and clean. Got a lot of the dirt and grime out of the runner there. So, alright. The engine's been running for about 30 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it off, let it cool down, and then I'll start doing the motor mounts. I'll probably restart it after the mounts are done, let it run a couple more times until the part comes in, and then I'll drain the coolant. Alright, had to wait for the train to go by. So yeah, everything looks a lot better now that it's been rinsed off. The motor mounts are left and right, so I'm not sure which one's which. I'll probably have to just figure it out once I get them off. So right now we're gonna let this cool off, and we'll pick this up in another video with me doing the motor mounts. Thanks for watching.